Welcome to the Journey to Wholeness, a podcast by I See My Baby Incorporated. Here, we dive deep into powerful stories of those who have overcome life's greatest challenges, stories of resilience, healing, and renewed faith. I'm Alicia Hurt, your host, and each week we'll speak to individuals who have transformed struggles with infertility, battles with depression, and crisis of faith into profound growth and purpose. It's Alicia Hurt. I am here for another episode of The Journey to Wholeness. I am so excited today. We have another phenomenal guest today with a story that you want to hear. We have Darla here. Hi, Darla.
Alicia.
So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being on our platform. And we always just jump right in. Are you okay with that?
I'm absolutely wonderful with that. Thanks so much for having me today.
Yes, ma'am. So please tell us about you. I know you're in Arizona, I think you said, where it's already like snowing. So tell us a little bit about you and then how you got to this journey of becoming whole.
Yes. So I'm originally from the DC area. I grew up in Alexandria, Virginia. I've lived out west since 2006. Currently, I'm living in Arizona. And I got on this journey. I grew up in a home that was very dysfunctional and abusive. And so that kind of set a narrative inside of me that I was not enough. And so the choices that I made with my romantic relationships reflected that. And I ended up getting involved with a narcissist about 20 years ago and married him. And that just started it changed the whole trajectory of my life. And what I realized 10 years later, after I got out, is that I had been in an abusive marriage. It's a healing process that is ongoing for the rest of my life. But it also made me realize that I needed to get straight with myself because the choices I was making was based on what was going on in my head. And so I have had 2 other relationships with 2 other narcissists, but this year has been just an amazing year. I've been on this healing journey for 11 years. This year has just been really a game changer for me, for sure.
Right. So you said a lot. So let me unpack some of that.
Yeah.
First, for those that don't understand what a narcissist is, could you please define that?
Yes. So while I'm not in a position to diagnose anyone, the men that I've been involved with that I would say they are narcissists. It's not just about someone being selfish every once in a while or being a jerk or being controlling. There are people out there that do that. That doesn't necessarily mean they're narcissist. What I observed was a pattern of behavior that was very consistent. There was a lack of accountability. I was always blamed no matter whether it was my fault or not. They were very grandiose, self-centered. It was all about them. Also, there was a very typical pattern where they love bombed, devalued, and discarded. And simply what that means is in the beginning of the relationship, they fast-tracked it. They really showered me with a lot of gifts and attention. Became like the white knight on the white horse. But after I was hooked and in love with them, they would start to insult me, discard me, make comments, give me less attention. And then the discard initially, that was kind of a cycle. It wasn't the end of the relationship. It was, I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to give you the silent treatment. I'm going to disappear.
Got it. Ladies, you hear that? All right. And like she said, she's not diagnosing, but she's giving you just some of the attributes that they may have, some of the behaviors that they may exhibit. And if that is you, then you definitely need to seek out support, right? You didn't say it, but I'm assuming you went through some type of therapy as well.
I did. I've seen a lot of therapists over my lifetime for sure. I was also involved in a support group with other narcissistic abusive victims, which actually was really helpful. I have had some good therapists, but lately in the past few years, I've really been struggling to find one that had lived experience with trauma or narcissistic abuse. And so having a therapist that understands that, or being in a support group that understands that, or a coach is really helpful because it's a form of brainwashing. And what someone who doesn't hasn't lived it, doesn't understand, is it's like I've been in a cult and I have to deprogram and
Mm,
replace that programming with good things.
mm, makes sense. Would you characterize that as a form of domestic violence?
Yes. Absolutely, because it takes many forms. Many of them are physically violent. My main abuse was mental, and they gaslight, they insult you, they put you down. In fact, they target really strong, successful women because they get off on actually tearing you apart. There's also the financial
Mm,
abuse. When I did leave, I didn't have any money and was deep in debt, no job. I was financially dependent on him, but left anyway. There's the sexual abuse. There's all kinds of just different things that are going on all at once.
right. And you mentioned that what you had to come to realization on is that it starts here. Tell us a
Yes,
little bit more about it starting here and the
totally.
impact, what to look for.
Totally. It started in the mind because I had a narrative of fear of abandonment. I have what is called an anxious attachment style. And so, what that means is I am terrified of someone abandoning me. That came from a childhood of having parents who were not dependable. I couldn't depend on a consistent behavior or unconditional love. So, when I got involved with these narcissists, I felt in my stomach that something was wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I ignored it and I stuffed it down. Like I'm being paranoid, I'm overreacting. Look how nice he, quote unquote, nice he is to me. And once I was hooked and we started in that little devalue stage, I would do anything to keep them. I was not willing to walk away and be alone. I was willing to put up
Mm,
with a lot of crap just to keep them in my life.
mm. I hear you. I hear you. And when you said, I thought about it, intuition is what popped into my mind. And it's like, okay, well, God gives us all intuition. Like
Yeah.
the biggest saying is, the popular saying is, women have intuition, right? And you
Yes.
said, you know what, I fought against it. And I just said, I gave it an answer like, oh no, I legitimized it. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So narcissism often comes in really pretty packages. They're often very good looking, very charming, very well revered in a community because they have this persona. They are basically an actor or actress because there are female as well. And they have a mask, a persona that they put on for everybody, a little play. And so I bought into his play, his acting. But behind closed doors, he was a completely different person. Yeah.
Wow.
Where I kind of lost my train of thought. Say again what you asked me.
Yep. So that intuition, like what you were
Intuition.
saying, how you felt like, ooh, like tell me what that intuition was telling you, and then how
Yeah.
you yourself was like, nope, I'm legitimizing this. Nope,
Right.
I'm putting that
Thank you.
past me. Like, how did that all play out?
Yeah. So the the intuition was, well, he said, okay, he has this ex-wife and they have these two kids. He's excusing her sleeping in the bed that I slept in because, well, she's taking a nap because she's visiting with the kids. Where the truth of the matter is, he was sleeping with her when I was at work. That's why she
Right.
was in that bed.
Right.
There was a lot of chumminess going on. There was a lot of like that's also a thing they do. It's called supply, where they keep you in your life and they have a lot of women, past girlfriends, past wives. And what's happening is they're taking turns with each of them. They're going back to them and circling back, then coming back to you, going to them. It's like this cycle. They've got you are not the only woman in their life. So that intuition that
Right.
I just felt it like, okay, if they're split up, why is there so much contact? And why do I feel uncomfortable with that, regardless of that they have children, right? That's just an
Right.
example of that. Yeah.
So, what were some of the most significant changes that you faced when you said enough is enough? Like, what were some of those changes?
Yeah, that's really where my spiritual belief came into place. Back in 2013 was really a dark time for me, for sure. I was devastated when he asked for a divorce. I really do believe I had a nervous breakdown. I ended up almost taking my life. But what saved me was my higher power reaching out that day and saying, I can't continue to live like this, but I, I, I don't know how to move on. And so my spiritual center, that I had women around me. I had a faith that helped me to get through that really dark time. I had women who would say, stop calling him, because I kept in contact with him regularly. You have an urge to call him, you call me, no matter what day, time, or, whatever day, time, anything. And what that did is that void that had been created by him not being in my life, that girlfriend filled that void. I will be the one who talked to, right? Yeah, that was a big player in my healing for sure. Really getting straight with who I was, and that's been a really long process. I realized a year ago that this Pollyanna idea of loving yourself, because I read a book, was really not attainable when I didn't even know who I was. So I really got straight with learning who I was, investing in myself, because if I can't love myself, then I can't expect others to love me. And also, I seek out relationships that validate the narrative that's going on in my head. If I think I'm worthless, I'll seek out men who treat me that way.
It goes right back to the mental state. You hear that, you guys? It goes right back to the mental state. One key component of what you said is that, yep, I had to face it, that this is it. Relationship is cutting, and I had to face that challenge. And you said a key thing was that your faith, that higher power. Talk more about that for me.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So it was a spiritual center that really kind of embodied a lot of different spiritual beliefs and combined them, kind of an a la carte type system. But it was basically about loving yourself and loving others, respecting others. It gave me a place to be. It gave me a place of support. I volunteered quite a bit. When I was at my low point, people would be there, even if it was just to pray with me, just to sit with me, let me just talk. But it gave me something bigger than myself to believe in. And I really needed that. I still need that. I mean, I've kind of wavered back and forth between what my beliefs are, but I think over the last 3 months, I've gotten straight with that again. For me, it gave me hope that there's somebody out there looking out for me.
Right. Right. Amen. Amen. Yeah. And I like how you said you had a sisterhood, because with having a spiritual safe haven, you also then needed some people that could rally around you and say, hey, I will help you. I will fill in the gap, right? I'll bridge the gap,
Yes.
And so talk more about how you came about having this community. How did you identify your actual sisters that could help you?
Yeah, it was a major pruning of all my friends. I had a very large group of people that I associated with. But as I started to change and heal, I realized that these people were kind of in a different place than me. So I had to cut those relationships off. Not that they were bad people, but if you're more interested in getting drunk and you don't want to better yourself, you're going to hold me back. You don't want It's not that you're trying to hurt me, but it's just your nature. I had to get really straight about who had my highest good in mind and who is going to get me through this in a productive manner, not drink it away. And I whittled it down to 5 women in my life that were going to be there, that were going to hold me up, that were going to talk straight to me, like, you need to get it together and you need to stop, not tell me what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. And also that spiritual center, right? I started going to a women's group because I didn't really have female relationships at that time. And I really do feel it takes a tribe. We can't do it alone. I still feel that way. I'm kind of living in 2 places right now, and I'm building new community here in Flagstaff. And I just said last night, I feel isolated. I've been saying this a lot. I need to start going to the gym up here. I need to start going out, because I'm feeling, once again, I have a wonderful community down in the Verde Valley, but I don't have it here. And I can already feel the strain. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Talk about that, because as humans, we can go all the way back to Genesis with Adam being by himself, and then God is like, it's good that we can commune, we can walk and talk together, but there's something right there, right? So kind of
Yes.
talk more about that, like how you're feel, because you're going through it, right? With living in
Right
two
now.
different places.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk more about that.
Sure. I think it's an exchange of energy. It's that give and take. And me being a natural extrovert, I need it more than, some people don't. I need to have conversations. I'm on this computer all day long by myself. Whereas, and I mostly get
Yeah.
it from the gym. So I'm doing two things at once. I'm I'm keeping my body healthy by moving it, but then I go to classes because then I can meet other
Right.
people, mostly women. But it's that exchange of energy. It's just interacting, and it's talking about something besides trauma, because I talk about it all
Right.
day long. I need to
Right.
not, I hate small talk, but I want to, hey, let's go out and have a cup of coffee or get to know you. But yeah, it's really about, I just said this within the last few hours, that I'm feeling like my energy is being drained, that my cup I'm giving to others, but I'm not receiving. And I think that's what community is. It's about that cycle of give and receive.
Yes. Yes. Say it
Mhm.
again.
It's a cycle of
You are
give
all
and
my business.
receive.
And sometimes you just don't know that that's what's happening. Like I'll get into this space of exhaustion and I'm like, no,
Mhm.
you had 8 hours of sleep. Like you're not, but
Right,
it's not that. It's what you're saying. I need energy to be put back in me because you're just,
right,
I'm a giver. And I'm
right.
like, Lord, I need it. I need it.
We
You are
can't give
so
from an
right,
empty
darling.
cup, right?
Amen. So true. It's so true. So, as you talked about going to the gym, that's one routine and one practice. Are there any others that have helped you along the way?
Yeah, and I don't always practice it, but I try to remember it. Is be kind to myself because I have setbacks. I I'm in a fairly new relationship, and boy, if you were gonna get triggered, it's when you're in a relationship. Not that I haven't worked
Yeah.
on myself in between, because I have. Um, but it's really being kind to myself. Um, Setbacks and struggles are inevitable. They are part of the healing process. This is an ongoing thing. But remembering that how far I've come, what I'm working towards, and if I need a minute to go take a walk to settle down, take a cold shower to kind of reset that nervous system, get re-regulated, it's okay to do that. It's
Right.
okay to take 5 minutes and pet my dog who's laying right here beside me, because he's always there for me without judgment.
Right. Right.
Right.
And being kind also goes into what you said initially when you said, I'm not enough. Because it's like if you feel like you're not enough, then you won't be kind to yourself. You won't have an expectation that someone needs to be kind to you, right? Um,
Yes.
I don't know where I was. I'm always listening to something or going to training or something, but I remember someone saying, like, literally, take time. It just put your hands, put
Hmm.
your hands on your shoulders, and
Right.
just take a moment, just be intentional, and you'll feel that energy just start to just penetrate throughout you, and it helps you to understand. You know what? I am enough. You know what? I love myself. You know what? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Like it really helps you to really center yourself and refocus and take that intentional moment. So, doing like
Mhm.
simple things like that as a routine or as a method to really align yourself, right?
Mhm.
Ground yourself. I just talked to someone else that said they go barefoot at the creek and helps them to just ground themselves and recenter themselves. A lot of this is based on your spirituality. It's based on drawing good and positive energy because,
Mhm.
like you said, it starts here. So if you don't believe it, you're not going to manifest it. You're not going to envision it. You're not going to believe it. And it's going to show through. It's going to show through, like you said, in relationships where you were able to conquer, overcome the first one. And then you're like, all right, here's the next. Again,
Mhm.
here's the
Yeah.
next. Again,
Yeah.
But if you don't do a self-check, a self-assessment, if you're not aware, if you don't love yourself and think that you're worthy, if you don't practice and have those routines, if you don't have that community, like you said, if you don't know where your spirituality lies, if you don't know that there's a higher power, sis, you're going to continue the cycle.
Yeah.
Right, Darla?
Right. It's so, and I really try hard to input stuff. Like every day I meditate for 10 minutes. I have that Calm app, which I love. I sit for 10 minutes and read a self-help book. I listen to podcasts all the time. Well, right now I'm in school too. So I'm listening to books about learning about, the nervous system and healing, but I'm always inputting positive things into my head as well, because it's really easy to get mired in that negativity. It only takes a minute, and then boy, then it takes over. And so kind of resetting that tape all the time and reminding myself that I can do better. I will do better.
Yeah. Yep. Like my trauma with actually watching my mom deteriorate. She had 4th-stage lung cancer. She survived 3 years, but I was with her the whole entire 3 years, and actually watching her take her last breath. In that, I had peace, serenity. My sister-in-law, I remember her telling me, get what you need from your mom. Ask those questions. Go those places. Have the fun that you need. Get those hugs. Get the I love yous. And that was helpful because I got it. And so at the ending, it wasn't any regrets. But I find myself at moments, and I'm going somewhere with it, at moments, because she's been gone a year this past June, of actually going back to day one, going back to year 1, year 2, year 3, and when she transitioned. And it's like, okay, Alicia, why are you having these feelings, right? Why are you going back to those places? Like, that's what trauma does.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I have to exercise my routines and tools so that I won't sink back into the grief, sink back into depression, sink back into the negative thoughts of the what I could have done. And I have to say, okay, Alicia, you're not God. Exercise your faith, knowing that your mom is in a better place. She's not hurting, that she left you with the tools, with the wisdom that you need, that guess what? Above and beyond your mom, you have a higher power. You have God, right? You have your beautiful children around. You have your husband. So it's a lot of self-work, a lot of self-talk, right?
Right.
A lot of reinforcing, because even though you've overcome it and you're like, yep, I'm whole, I'm good. I believe in Jesus and therapy, right? But I'm doing what I need to do. But then there are going to be moments when you go right back to that dark place, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, but you gotta use your tools to bring it back. Darla, I know you've had those moments, sis. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So like, pretty recently. So what happens is, so I'm in this new relationship, and I get triggered. Something feels like the past. Something just the other day with the holidays happened where one of the things that had occurred to me is that narcissism isn't just one person, it's often generational. So what I realized is that my ex-husband, not only was he a narcissist, I'm pretty sure his parents were. They created that because they created that child wound. And I'm about to meet some family members of my boyfriend, and I kind of flash back to how I was abused by his parents as well. And I got triggered, and I actually am, he's really good about letting me say, this is what's going on in my head. And so it ended up being an incident where the dog upset me, and I lashed out at the dog, but it was really about, I got triggered a few minutes before and had tried to stop it. I believe in sitting in it for a minute and letting it come out. So hey, I know that you didn't do anything, but this is what happened when you said this, and this is where my mind went. It was a flashback, and I have those flashbacks frequently in many situations.
Right. Yep. But it's good that you have that space where your partner allows you to work through it and then talk about it. And then that also shows growth. When it's like, you said stuff it, and I do the same thing because I processed it like, whoa, what is this? Right? And that's a maturity and awareness of yourself. What is this? Alicia, this you? Like, where did that come from? And then so you're growing through it. So even though we're basically telling you guys, it is okay to revisit those places, that trauma, that grief that you have gone through, but not to allow it to fester. Like my mom always says, if you're sick or something's going on, don't sit in it. Get it together. Go get some cough medicine, right? Don't just sit there and say, oh, I'm sick, right? Do
Right.
something about it, right? That is you
Right.
maturing in your trauma, not woe it's me. And I know, like, with grief and trauma, everybody has their own journey, they have their own timeline, but don't use that as a way to say, well, that's why, right? That's why I'm the way I am. Or no, do something about it, right? You have to
Right.
have that growth mindset. I want to be better. I want to do better. I want a great relationship that is long lasting, that is healthy, right? That brings out the best Alicia, brings out the best Darla.
Right.
So it's
Right.
okay to revisit those things, but don't sit in it. Use your tools, use those mechanisms, whether it's, all right, let me call my sister in accountability. Let me go
Mhm.
to that safe space. For our listeners, that would be the I See My Baby retreat space. If you're virtual, that's reaching out, send an email, a text, scheduling some time with me, and let's talk through it. Don't sit in it, because it becomes dangerous. You talked about that dark space earlier, that where it just gets really dark, really fast. And it is hard to snap out of it, because the enemy, you want to call it a negative power or force, however you want to name it, it will come in there like a thief in the night and want to steal, kill, and destroy. And so you got to grab hold of it, and you got to say, oh, like Darla said, wait a minute, that wasn't about the dog. It was what you just said. And I, because it triggered me.
Mhm.
And being okay with that, right?
Right.
Being
And if
okay
I
with it.
had just said that to begin with, there wouldn't have been the eruption. And that's on me.
Right.
But
Right.
so this is the difficult thing of navigating being in a relationship where someone actually values you, is that I'm so used to being devalued, to being told that I'm too much. And I, to be honest, up until this point, um, I've been told by everybody, I'm too much, I need too much, I want too much. But I've made this decision, even though it's really difficult. And there was a difficult conversation about this last night about, I'm expensive and I haven't found anyone that can afford me yet. And I'm not going to lower my price.
That's not, y'all hear it? Y'all, hey, listen, Darla found someone, y'all, that fits the bill.
Right.
So don't give up. They can say what they want to say. Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Take that to the bank.
Yeah,
I
for
need to
sure.
read just what she just said, okay?
Right.
It's okay. This is me.
Right. It is. And then, well, there are things I need to work on. There are things where I'm not going to change. Like, I'm an East Coaster. So yeah, um, I'm I'm very verbal when I drive and I say things, I'm intense. I have very strong boundaries and I won't hesitate to confront people, but I can
Yeah.
change how I confront people. That I have changed. Instead of being
Yeah.
aggressive and nasty, now it's, I need this because.
Right. So tell me, how do you maintain your resilience in the face of ongoing challenges?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one sometimes. It goes back to that being kind to yourself. Um, Also, it's all about, for me, it's become a purpose because I decided to take my personal experiences and share them with others to show them the way, to show them that it's not an easy process, but that you're not alone. That helps. That's one thing. Um, I think also I've come so far that I don't want, even in the moments when I want to give up, and I have those, that after I kind of get out that initial funk, to remind myself I've worked too hard to give up now. You've saved for that
Amen.
car and you're $100 from paying cash for it. Don't stop now. And it's really about, um, I don't want to let myself down. I mean, I don't want to let other people down either, but it's really about that, just remembering that and taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more that than anything because it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to be resilient sometimes.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we'll
And,
have
and
post faces on, but it's hard.
and I'm really authentic about my setbacks and all that. I blog as well as podcast, and there's two purposes. My blog is more about really the down and dirty, what's really going on. Like, oh, this was a really crappy thing that happened, and I had a bad moment. Um, and I do that because I want to show people that this is a roller coaster, and I'm on the ride, and it's okay.
That's
This is
right.
not a straight line of healing. This is, I have good days and I have bad days. Yesterday, I had a really bad day, to be quite frank. I had a bad day and I had to
Yeah.
like stop that. I had to record a podcast with somebody else yesterday afternoon and I really had to stop that. And it was hard, very hard.
Yeah. 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 But now today,
Today's
you're
better,
better.
right?
You gave us a little teaser of what you do. So now's your moment. Tell us what you do, how you help people, and then also how the listeners can either follow you, get in contact with you, and kind of support you.
Yeah. So I'm a certified somatic trauma informed coach, and I'll explain what that is in a moment. My focus is women who have experienced trauma or narcissistic abuse, or even women that say what I found is I didn't know I had been abused by a narcissist for a long time. I didn't realize that. You feel like you're in a relationship with someone, whether it's a family member, coworker, romantic partner. Something's wrong. I just don't know what it is. I'm very anxious. I feel off. I'm stressed. That might Lord only knows where that's going to go. But anyway, I work with those women who have experienced trauma and that type of abuse. Somatics, if you're unfamiliar with it, is kind of new. And it's about how our body, when we store a memory of trauma, it's not just in our brain, it ingrains itself in our body, kind of like the needle in the old records,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets stuck. And like what I did the other night, when I stopped it, like I'm stressed, but I'm being a pain. I'm going to just push that away. What I did is I misfiled that memory and I needed to refile it. And so through somatics, we have body sensations. When I'm stressed about something today, I might have a sore or a tight throat, a sick stomach, my shoulders hurt or they're up. And what I do with my clients is we sit with that for a minute and say, okay, when did you feel like that before? When did your body have those sensations before? Almost always it goes back to a childhood experience. And I give them the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to bring up that painful moment, not their whole life, just that moment. I hold space for them while we talk through it. I ask them questions and we kind of work through that and talk through it. We're kind to our prior self. And then we figure out how can we support ourselves in the past, but bring that forward and support now and kind of take the sting off that trigger and change our way of thinking and behavior now.
Mm-hmm. That's deep. It's like, well,
It's
give
deep.
me the
It
link. I
is.
think I need an appointment. I need an appointment
Right?
now. Because I'm sitting
Yourself,
here
I
just
think.
thinking like, oh, where am I holding that grief for my mom? Like, oh, where am
Mm,
I holding that traumatic, almost dying car accident? Like, where am I holding? You have a whole like, woo, this is much needed in our community.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I
how
felt
can
it's
we
been
get in touch
helpful.
with you?
Yeah, so I have a
Yeah.
website, highvaluewoman.info. On there's all my links. I've got a free support group for women on Tuesday evenings, or you can do one-on-one appointments with me. I have a podcast, blog, all that. If you go to my website, highvaluewoman.info, you'll see all of it there.
Awesome, awesome. So as we wrap up, Darla, I always ask, give us your one message for our listeners. If it's like, all right, if you didn't hear anything else, hear this that you hope they take away from your story.
Mm-hmm. I would say invest in yourself. The game changer for me a year ago was as I got to know who I was. I asked ladies to start doing things for yourself that have nothing to do with anybody else. What is it you enjoy? Do you enjoy gardening? Do you like to go to new restaurants? Don't take your friends, don't take your partner. Set aside some time for yourself to invest in you. Because when you start investing in you, you start to like yourself a little bit more, then you start to love yourself. And then everything else kind of, will not all fall into place, but I think it's a good basic foundation.
Okay. I love that. So let me
Yeah.
think. What am I gonna do? Maybe go get my nails done. I like doing that.
See? Oh, that's perfect.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, Darla, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being vulnerable and transparent, because there's listeners out there that find value in it, and you resonate. And they're like, oh my God, I thought it was just me. Okay, how do I get past this relationship? Reach out to Darla. She is here. She's a part of the community. She's stuck with me now. We are stuck like glue, okay? I'm sure I'll have women to refer to you as well. But again, thank you for your time. You guys have her website. I'm also going to drop the link below this video, or if you're listening, below the audio version. Okay, tune in again for another episode on the journey to wholeness. Take care, you guys. Bye.